Boker Tov, good morning. Today is December 25th. It's also the 10th day of Tevet, the fast day on the Jewish calendar, and Erev Shabbat, Parshat Vayigash. Yosef reveals himself to his brothers in Parshat Vayigash. And after the shock seems to, I don't know if it wears off, they deal with the initial shock. Yosef, we're told, and tells his brothers not to worry. Ve'ata lo atem shalachtem oti hena. And now it's clear that you did not send me down here. Ki ha'Elohim. Rather, it was God. Vayasimeni la'av leFaro u'la'adon l'chol beito. And God enabled me to be in a parental role to Pharaoh and to be a master to his whole household. U'moshel b'chol eretz Mitzrayim, and to be, someone who has great power over all the land of Egypt. God enabled me to do that. And he also says to them, you should understand that God has sent me to be the one who will give you life. It's not, as you might initially read it, some type of power trip that Yosef is sharing with his brothers. That I'm the big guy. I'm the guy who takes care of everybody, or his need to be a savior, his Messiah complex of some kind or another. It is an assessment of all that's happened, and he's been through hell. He has. Sold as he was, enslaved as he was, and then falsely accused after he rose in Potiphar's house, and then is pulled out of that pit, and ultimately rises to an important role, and wondering all throughout this, what is going on? What am I here for? Why is this happening? And what am I to do? And Yosef concludes, and looking back, that he's not going to spend his time blaming his brothers, but rather to think that God has enabled him to do something great. God has given him access to a wisdom, to a knowledge of what was transpiring, and the capacity to know how to fix it. That's the moment we find ourselves in now. When people are beginning this past 2 weeks to be taking either the Pfizer or the Moderna vaccine, what goes through their heads? What do they focus on? And there's a lot you can focus on about the woeful, terrible plight of these past many months. But instead, what one should focus on is the power of the moment, the capacity that God has given to humankind in the face of this terrible pandemic to know how to respond to it finally. In fact, it was already really in the early days of the pandemic that the knowledge was already there, how to use, at least with these initial vaccines that we're dealing with, the mRNA vaccines, how to employ them, to decode quickly the virus that's in front of us. And already in early spring, they were preparing for this vaccine to be rolled out, but you had to go through all of the steps that were moved through in ways faster than ever before, but with great, as we're told, and I do trust all the people that tell us these things, that this has been done with great care and meticulous scientific assessment, that we have in front of us and in our arms, in our hands and in our arms, a safe vaccine. And so we turn to one another and say, my God, here they are. God has sent the ability to these individuals to provide us with life. The minds of the scientists and the government that helped make it happen, and the investments that helped make it happen, and all the infrastructure that's helped making it happen now, even though there's some delays. There will be great delay for getting to most of us. Our frontline workers are already receiving it, but for many of us, it's going to take some more time to be able to say, God has sent you, limichya, to provide us life. And so there are interesting discussions about whether a person should say a blessing or not when receiving this. Is there a shehecheyanu to be recited? Probably not a shehecheyanu, but maybe the bracha hatov hamitiv, as collectively we recognize God has done good for us in this, and we experience the good. There's a special Yehiratzon that a person's supposed to say whenever undergoing some type of medical cure or treatment, that this should be for refuah, that a person should say. And when we're through all this, we'll say the Birchat HaGomel, thanking God for having brought us through this frightening and dangerous time of our lives. If anybody, if you know of anyone who is questioning whether or not you should take this vaccine when it comes your way, I'll tell you, as all of the great poskim that I rely on, and I think that most of our community relies on, there's an absolute obligation for a person to take this unless their doctor specifically says that somehow they're not able to because of their anaphylactic issues. There's absolutely an obligation to do so. The obligation that Torah puts that we have to protect ourselves. Lo tamod dam reyacha. That even if we say I'm not going to do it, but you know what, we're causing great harm to others if we don't help inoculate ourselves and bring the whole community do so in order to bring the herd immunity and to prevent others who might be in contact from being endangered. So lo tamod dam reyacha is right there in front of us. Do not stand idly by as others are endangered. We have an obligation to act proactively, help protect other people in such circumstances. These and many other elements of this obligation are front and center. And if someone says, well, it's a safek sakana, it's a question mark about whether there's a danger here. So the answer is, firstly, the science tells us there isn't a danger, and we're obligated in halacha to listen to the rofim, to the doctors and the scientists. And I'll draw your attention to a comment that was made in last week's Torah portion, when the following is said. It's a moment in which Yaakov is just intransigent. He's not going down. He's not letting them bring Binyamin back down to Egypt. And they're facing real danger of starvation. And says Yehuda to their father, Vayomer Yehuda el Yisrael aviv, Shilcha hanari tiv akuma v'nelcha, send the child with me, and we'll be able to get up and go already. V'nichyeh b'lo namut, and we'll live and we won't die. Gam anachnu, gam ata, gam tapenu. All of us, you and our children. This was actually pointed out to me and those who were listening to our shir that was offered earlier this week on the topic by Rabbi Yonah Rees. And the Rashi says, "V'nichyeh v'lo namut barav, we won't die by famine. Binyamin, your fear about Binyamin is safek yitafes, safek lo yitafes. You're afraid maybe he's going to be grabbed and something bad will happen to him. That's a safek sakana. It's a possible danger. But we have a vadai sakana. We have a certain danger that we're all going to die from famine if we don't go. Mutav shetaniach da safek v'titposat havadai. The right thing to do is put aside your doubt, the possible danger that you're imagining, and grab hold of the vadai, of the certainty, of the certain danger that we're facing if we don't take action. That is a principle in halacha, and discussed in great detail about. I'm not an expert on these matters, but if there's a safek sakana, to what degree do you enter into a possible danger when dealing with other certain dangers? And then we say that when the dangers become, the safek sakana is such a remote safek, it's not really a safek, a doubt at all, and that's our present moment. So I hope and I pray that we'll all be able to take advantage of the gift that God has given us through the hands of the scientists, and rolled out by the major companies that are rolling it out with the help of our government. And when it comes our way, you'll take it without doubt. And God willing, the vadai sakana, the certain danger will pass. V'nichyeh v'lo namut, that all of us will be able to live and not die, and our lives will return to the meaningful lives that we hope to be able to share with ourselves, gam anachnu, also us, gam ata, also you, gam tapenu, also are children after us. And when we take that vaccine when it comes our way, we'll give thanks to God that He sent life to us through their hands. Have a Shabbat Shalom.